There's this part in Higurashi episode 6, Sumi Horoboshi, where Reina's dad's girlfriend is about to try to kill Reina, and right before she does it, Reina's confronting her about how the girlfriend's actually just ripping the dad off. She's a gold digger. And, the girlfriend just sort of makes this noise. It's not like an ada ada. She's like, ada da da da. I don't know why. That's like one of the only things I remember about that. Gold is the physical embodiment of magic that can exist in the human world. Since ancient times, even a small bit of it could control men with its magic. In that case, how much magic power would dwell in it if it was piled up in a mountain so high you'd have to look up to see the top? Don't be stupid, we'll split it evenly. Isn't that the obvious solution? Did we say that half of this pile would belong to me and the other half would be split between the four of us? The yells of the humans dancing around the gold reverberated through the underground room. In front of the pile of gold, they were arguing about how it should be split. Did you solve the riddle all by yourself, Nissan? You didn't, right? The four of us siblings solved it together. Of course we'll split it in 4 equal parts. Coward! Weren't you the ones who first made up that proposal about the gold's distribution? How can you disregard that so easily? You really think you're in a position to bargain? When you're the ones hiding Dad's death? Yeah! You've been swindling us this whole time, treating Father's wealth as if it were your own. All you need to do is split the gold evenly and we'll drop all the rest, including that particular issue. It sounds very fair to me. Well, if you insist, go ahead and try splitting it 4 ways. Let's divide this pile up right now and you can all take your own shares home. I hope you have pockets that can hold 2.5 tons of ingots. It seems you've all been driven mad by the gold and lost all ability to make rational judgments. What do you mean by that, Kraus Nissan? Look at this ingot. As you can see, there are no official markings, just Father's crest. How do you intend to turn unmarked gold like this into cash? Well... Have you finally figured it out? This pile of gold may be worth 20 billion yen. However, that's only if you can trade it for cash. Are any of you capable of exchanging this many unmarked, unidentified ingots for cash at the proper rates? If it was a necklace or a ring, exchanging it for cash would have been a manageable problem. However, doing that for several tons of unmarked gold that couldn't be made public would be impossible for any normal person. However, Kraus could do it. Among the several business friends that remained from Kinzo's generation, there were some who had black market ties and a lot of financial power. The billion yen tied to the cash card that the Golden Witch had held out a second ago had already been turned to cash thanks to one of Kinzo's connections. However, none of the other siblings had any connections like that. They would have to rely on Kraus to get cash for the gold. Now you're finally seeing it. I apologize for hiding all those things about Father. However, you're in no position to take advantage of that weakness. You really think you have such an advantage just because of something like that? What do you intend to do with that gun? Please, you're scaring us. Ava was gripping the gun so hard it looked like it might snap. The 4 guns that the witch had placed in this room were now in the hands of the relatives. Just as the gold had led to their hearts astray, it seemed these guns had the magical power to turn their hearts to violence. Finally, a scuffle arose between Eva and Kraus. Off to the side, Natsuhi started arguing with Rudolph and his wife, and the grand underground VIP room was filled with thundering jeers. After being forced to watch the scene for so long, Anja's face was starting to contort with pain. It was only natural after being shown this abusive argument between her parents and her other relatives. What on earth? It was painful for Leon too. Leon would have tried to intervene and calm them if that had been possible. The gold isn't going anywhere, right? If you just slow down and think, you'll be able to resolve this. Going by what Eva and the others said, it's clear that they'll need a lot of money before the end of the year. However, the billion-yen cash card should be more than enough to pay for that. That would handle their emergency expenses so they could then convert the gold to cash at their leisure, and just split it amongst themselves. Sure, maybe Kraus was the only one capable of converting the gold. That might give him an advantage over the other siblings. However, this gold couldn't be dealt with by open means. In addition to attracting public attention, it would also lead to various legal problems. It was better for the secret money to remain secret. If they wanted to get the largest portions possible, then they should all agree not to tell anyone about this gold. In other words, to maximize their profits, they would all need to make a gentleman's agreement to keep this secret. Kraus did have a slight advantage. However, it was possible for the other relatives to refuse to cooperate and tell the world about the gold. And then, there was also the concealment of Kinzo's death to consider. Kraus was an investor. He needed not only financial clout, but also a certain degree of public confidence in him. His advantage isn't big enough for him to act so overbearing. The Mountain of Gold has made everyone lose their ability to think rationally. This isn't an argument between adults. It's just a fight between kids. What's so fun about showing us this? Or is this the game of some new witch? Are they watching us suffer from somewhere and laughing? By now, even I didn't have a clue who was showing this to us or for what reason. At the very least, this new tale didn't seem to be overflowing with affection. At first, I thought it was a tale of a beautiful world where no crime occurred and Claire's regrets had vanished. But something's different. This tale is clearly filled with ill will towards us. I'm sure of that much now, but I don't have a clue who would want to show us this. Suddenly, an explosion rang out. I didn't think it was the sound of gunfire. After all, people living a normal life never hear that kind of sound. Drip, 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 drip. It was the sound of thick raindrops hitting the floor. There is no rain in this underground room. It was blood dripping down from Natsuhi's right eye. The bullet had gone through her right eye towards the back of her head. Natsuhi? It's your fault for jumping at me! The gun which fell from Eva's grasp landed on the floor with a hard metallic clang. As though in response to that sound, Natsuhi's head slowly turned to face the ceiling. Natsuhi! Natsuhi! Natsui flopped backwards. When the back of her head hit the floor, a red splash spread out beneath it, forming a single flower to adorn her dead face. Natsuhi, Nei-san. Why did you shoot her? Why? Eva! Eva! Kraus howled, raised his gun, and ran at Eva. At the same time, Hideyoshi leapt between them. A scuffle broke out between the two men. How could you? Natsuhi! Nah! Kraus, Nissan, you've got it wrong! You've got it all wrong! It was just an accident! Eva! How could you? I'll kill you! I'll kill you! I didn't shoot. I didn't. Even though I told her to stop, she just jumped at me. Kraus, who had just seen his wife killed before his eyes, had lost all traces of rationality in his expression. He was so furious that if he had knocked Hideyoshi aside and jumped at Eva, he might have torn her throat out. Why did you kill her? Why? Eva! It was an accident! An accident! Calm down, Kraus Nissan! Ow, 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 ow. Another explosion rang out. Hideyoshi's face was covered with blood. The two of them had been fighting over the gun Kraus held, trying to push it away from themselves. When the barrel had turned to point at Kraus's chin, the sneering, formless Reaper, master of the Room of Gold, had swung its scythe once more. A line of blood trickled from Kraus's mouth. The two fell down with Kraus's body on top of Hideyoshi. Letting out a cowardly cry, Hideyoshi backed away before Kraus's body could cover him. Dear! I didn't do anything! Kraus Nissan's finger just got caught on the trigger! It's an accident! An accident, I tell you! That's right, an accident! This was all an accident! As the pair of them broke down, sobbing and repeatedly claiming that it was all an accident, Rosa and the others were unable to say a thing. The witch also watched the scene, but said nothing and appeared to be completely disinterested. It wasn't our fault! It was just an accident! You saw, right? 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 You saw that, didn't you, Rosa? Kraus Nissan and Natsuhei Nei-san both let their emotions get a hold of them and charged at us. Who knows? I couldn't say either way. Stupid Rosa! You saw it, didn't you? You saw it from right there, so you must know! I'm sorry. I can't tell if it happened by accident or if you killed them and tried to make it look like an accident. Rosa, you... Rudolph-kun! You saw! You know what happened, right? Right? Sorry, but I have to agree with Rosa. We can't tell if it was an accident or intentional. Rosa's and Rudolph's gazes looked very cold and indifferent to Eva and her husband. What are we going to do? They were shot to death. Saying it was a simple accident won't convince anyone. The forest! We'll say they went to the forest and went missing. That'll buy us some time. That won't get us off the hook, right? The police will just search the whole forest. And anyway, why would those two go off into an uncultivated forest like that? It'll look suspicious from the start. There's no way we'll get away with it. It'll be okay. If we hide the corpses here, no one will be able to find them. If we all play dumb, it'll work. It won't. There's no way you can fool the police. If the two of them disappear during a family conference where we were arguing over the inheritance problem, the police won't just put it down as a case of missing persons. I just had an idea. Though Eva had been scratching at her head, overcome with emotion, her arms suddenly fell as though their strings had been cut. What did you think of? An accident. We just need to make it look like an accident. Idiot! What kind of accident? There are clear gunshot wounds on both corpses, right? Even if we burn them to make it look like they were caught in a fire, it'll still be obvious they were killed by guns! Fire? That's not good enough. We need more. A much more massive accident. A massive accident? Ava slowly walked forward, tapped it, and spoke. An explosion accident. We just need the sort of accident that will leave no traces of their corpses. As she played with the switch that would cause an automatic explosion at 2400, Ava spun around to look at them, a crazed expression on her face. It was truly a mad flash of inspiration. If they flipped the switch to the right and waited for 2400, the 900 tons of explosives would wipe out the mansion without a trace. There wouldn't even be anything left of the corpses. There certainly wouldn't be any way to tell if they had died by gunshot wounds before the explosion. It's an unshakable fact that this island is still filled with explosives from the war. Then, by coincidence, tomorrow night, something will set it off by chance, and the whole thing will explode! Yes, it'll be an accident. An explosion accident. What do you say? There's no way the police will find out the truth. This way we can pull it off. We can hide the manner of their deaths. That's crazy. Shaking, Hideyoshi frantically searched for a counter-argument, hoping to shut down Eva's mad idea. But he couldn't find one. If they blew everything up, the facts would all be muddled. They could make it look as though Kraus and Natsuhi had died in an explosion accident. It's perfect! Just perfect! After all, it was an accident that they died anyway. We're just changing the type of accident. Isn't that right? We can think up any story we want. By chance, the rest of us will happen to be in the hidden mansion tomorrow night. Then, when the explosion accident occurs, we'll be lucky enough to survive. That story should work. Just what sort of story are you planning on? What kind of story can explain how the two of them alone remained here while the rest of us conveniently went to the hidden mansion and managed to escape? That's what we gotta think of now, stupid Rosa! It doesn't matter what it is as long as we all agree to it. I'll think of something. I am thinking of something. You all think too. Someone, think of something! Calm down, Eva. I'll think about it, and so will everyone else. We'll definitely think of something, and it'll all work out. We'll share the burden. You won't have to carry it all yourself. It'll all be okay. It will! I know we'll think of a good excuse. What kind of excuse? We took the kids and all the servants to go exploring an underground passageway, leaving just the two of them behind, and the rest of us all decided to spend the night in the hidden mansion? How could any excuse work? It's insane! And thinking of that insane thing is our job. Why are you acting like this has nothing to do with you? You think of something too. Nei-san, let me ask you a question. If you blow up the island, what will happen to the Scold? Well, we finally got our hands on 20 billion yen of gold, and you want to blow it all away? We can just carry it away. Yeah, that's right. The explosion will happen tomorrow at midnight. We have a full day. If we all carry it together, we might... You realize there's 10 tons of it, right? How much do you think our small group can carry back and forth across this long underground passage that goes all the way across the island? You're being absurd. Here, we have this card, right? The card worth 1 billion yen, the one that woman gave us. We'll just carry as much gold as we can. We have the card with 1 billion yen on top of that. If we split that 3 ways, we'll have more than 300 million each. That should be enough for all of our purposes. I don't like it. You don't like what? We have a mountain worth 20 billion yen right here. Why should we be satisfied with just 300 million each? Rosa! Ava's face twisted in anguish and was met by Rosa's look of cold unconcern. If we gave Kraus Nissan his share, we'd each have a share of 5 billion. Subtract the 300 million from the card, and the rest of my share is 4.7 billion. If you agree to pay that much to me, then you can do whatever you want with this mountain of gold. What do you think you're saying? So you don't intend to cooperate? Nason, please calm down and listen. This plan will let both of us leave with the maximum amount of money. What? I want you to go to the police, turn yourself in, admitting that you got into a scuffle and the gun went off. Are you crazy? I don't want to go to the police! Of course. We want to say that the crime happened here. The police would find the gold. Yes, how about the Rose Garden? It's pouring rain now, so the police probably won't find any contradictions at the crime scene. I'll let you think of an excuse for why you and Nissan started fighting while you're holding guns in the rainy Rose Garden. Please, don't try to get us and our shares involved just because you want to hide your own crime. Rosa! It's not so bad, right? After all, it's not like they'll keep you in jail for several decades. It was an accident, right? You'll be able to get out after just a few years. When you've paid for your sins and come back, then you can do whatever you want with your 5 billion. No, I'd never do that. What would happen if we were arrested? What would happen to my husband's company? Who cares about the company? With 5 billion yen, working any longer would just be a waste of time, right? Rosa had never intended to go along with Ava's proposal. If it was a question of maximizing each person's portion, no one had anything to gain from an explosion accident. An explosion would conceal Kraus and Natsuhi's death, and it would serve no further purpose. From Rosa's perspective, the ideal outcome would be for them to confess to their crimes without any unnecessary tricks. All she wanted was to change the crime scene from here to a different place. However, Eva didn't want to be arrested. She didn't like having her share shrink from 5 billion to 300 million. But even that was more than enough to cover the amount she had been trying to wring out of Kraus in the first place. She wanted to hide what had happened here, even if it meant blowing away 4.7 billion yen. What would happen if they were arrested? The life, the company, and the trust that Eva had worked so long to build were things that could be bought back with money. So she wanted to hide Kraus and Natsuhi's death, even if it meant blowing up all 4.7 billion yen worth of her gold. But from Rosa's perspective, that was just irrational nonsense. Rosa! What do you think you're doing with that gun, Nason? Are you going to have me die in the explosion too? That'll make fighting an excuse even harder. In fact, it'll make it harder to explain away the other 2 deaths as accidents too. 3 whole deaths means it'll be quite a large-scale crime. It would probably get you the death penalty, or life in prison if you're lucky. Even in the best case, you'll probably be put away for more than a decade, right? Turn yourself in. If you do, this will be more than a pair of it'll be no more than a pair of unfortunate accidents. Of course, your jail term won't be too terrible either. Don't worry about George-kun. We'll take good care of him, and we'll make sure that your entire share of 5 billion yen is waiting for you when you get back. Ava ground her teeth and glared. The Rosa she knew would have been shaking and obeying her commands. And yet, Rosa wasn't scared. Her blank expression, no, that faint smile, was one that Eva had never seen before. Put the gun down, Nason. Once you calm down, you'll see that my plan is the best one. Jail isn't so bad, right? Think of it as a financial strategy. Even if they put you in for 10 years, there will be 5 billion waiting for you when you get out. That's like working for a 500 million yen salary, right? If you think of it that way, won't you enjoy your job more? Liar! You just want to steal my share while I'm in there. Like your man did to you. He has nothing to do with this, okay? I won't run away. I'd never run away with someone's money. Oh, I'll never do it! Rosa's once frigid face was filled with rage. The two howling people pointing their guns at each other, shouting insults. You could smell the Gold Room's reapers slinking closer. The smell of gunpowder, the explosive smell of death filled the room. A bubble of blood dripped from Rosa's mouth. Then, she fell over lifelessly, like a mannequin someone had pushed over. Ava? It wasn't me. I swear, I didn't even pull the trigger. The round in the chamber of your gun was spent when you fired at Natsuhi-san, right? You never reloaded, so even if you pulled the trigger, that gun won't kill anyone. Have no fear. As Kyrie said this, she maneuvered the lever action with a practice hand and a smoke-smelling shell casing was ejected. It hit the floor with a small metallic sound. That tiny sound had a disturbing ring to it. Rosa-san's analysis was a little naive. She has no idea how difficult it would be to exchange this many unmarked gold ingots for money. Back in Dad's day, even just showing this gold to get funding was enough to create the massive rumor called the Ushiromiya Legend of the Gold. Exchanging this for cash is impossible. A pile of gold you can't use is no better than a pile of crap. 10 tons of gold were exchanged for cash on the black market, and the successor and his wife died mysterious deaths. Expecting that to go unnoticed is what's really unbelievable. We don't want to get the police involved. We'll blow up this island and destroy all the evidence. If it's tough parting with the gold, feel free to grab as much as you can hold. The billion yen on the cash card is more than enough. In other words, Ava Nason was right. I'm glad. It looks like we're on the same page. If the police get involved, who knows what might happen? It's the same with cashing in the gold. I'm sure that would have tripped us up somewhere, so we had no choice. The 1 billion that woman over there exchanged for cash is the only money we'll be able to get our hands on. And even splitting that billion, it'll be more than enough for what we need. On top of that, now that Rosa's dead, our shares have increased even more. We can each leave this island with 500 million. Exactly. As long as we don't let our greedy desire to cash in the gold control us, we can pretend that everything that occurred on this island never happened. We have a way to do that right here. By this point, neither deaths from accidental discharges nor shooting murders meant anything on this island. Everything would be erased equally by the explosion accident. No matter what happened between now and midnight the next day, everything would be rewritten. And you told me to turn myself in? Stupid Rosa. You weren't satisfied with just 300 million? This is what you get for being too greedy. You brought this on yourself. But, Kyrie-san, there was no need to shoot her, right? Even Rosa-san would have figured it out if you just told her. I did need to shoot her. After all, Rosa-san's the only one who didn't fire her gun. What does that matter? The guns lying at your feet are Kraus Nissan's and Ava Nason's. Both of those have been fired. However, Rosa-san's gun can shoot if you just pull the trigger. It's hard to reload one of these if you aren't used to a lever action. An amateur would have some trouble pulling it off. Kyrie-san, what are you talking about? You... They finally realized what Kyrie meant. Rosa had the only gun that could still fire, so I shot her first. Oh, how foolish we were. Why didn't we realize sooner? Even though we knew there was a mechanism for erasing everything that happens on this island. Ava and Hideyoshi hurried to pick up the guns that lay at their feet. At the same time, fire spat from Kyrie's gun once more. Hideyoshi let out a short scream, clutched at his chest, and fell over face down. Dear? Dear! But why is this? Ava fiddled with the lever action, trying to imitate something she vaguely remembered from a Western movie. But something seemed to be caught, and the still open lever didn't budge. See? It's pretty hard. You! Kyrie finished reloading with a fluid motion. The way she held it was as innocent and as sure as a kid playing with a squirt gun. With another heartless cry of gunfire, the puppet called Ava slumped down to the floor as though its strings had been cut. Rudolph-san, the billion-yen card. Sure. The cash card with the billion yen, which Eva had just grabbed from the witch. That alone was more than enough. The 20 billion yen pile of gold had skewed everyone's sense of value. Just a few million yen is enough for people to kill over. And this was a billion yen. Rosa-san, those were some famous last words there. Just 300 million? You were too greedy. No kidding. Lucky me. I don't have to fish through her corpse. As Rudolph walked up to Eva's body, he found the card lying beside it and picked it up. So this flimsy little card is worth 1 billion yen. Sticking with the company would be a waste of time. So, do we close up shop and spend the rest of our lives in some southern country? I'm sure you'd get bored right away. Besides, I like seeing you get all worried about some problem, then leap around like a little kid when you finally overcome it. Sure you do. Thank you, Miss Golden Witch. Rudolph-san and I will make good use of this billion. Kraus Nissan promised to treat you in a gentlemanly fashion, but I haven't made any such promise. She pulled the trigger without a trace of mercy. When the ringing of the gunfire died down, blood trickled from the witch's mouth and she fell over onto the bed. Once again, Kyrie ejected the used shell casing. The 4 metal sounds of used shells hitting the floor seemed to symbolize the fact that Rudolph and his wife now possessed all shares of the gold. All of them were really slow-witted. From the moment they heard about the bomb, they should have known that they wouldn't be leaving this island as a big, happy family. Sorry about this, Aniki, Rosa. Well, that's life for you. Give me a break, okay? Aniki and Aniki get into a fight, Rosa gets dragged in, and I'm the one who picks up the pieces. Just like it's always been, right? It wasn't as though Rudolph and Kyrie had planned to kill everyone and take everything for themselves from the start. Kyrie had quickly realized by the length of the barrel of the gun in her hands that it would probably hold 5 rounds at a time. Yes. Kyrie and Rudolph were both very familiar with this gun. Rudolph, whose interest in guns from old westerns came from his father, owned a shotgun of the same model. Even Kyrie had earned the qualifications to use that gun, becoming familiar enough with it that they could go shooting together for fun. Including the witch, there had been 8 people there. 6 people besides the 2 of them. Each gun held 5 rounds. That was 1 short. They didn't have enough to kill everyone. To be honest, it really surprised me when they finally got into a fight and one of the guns went off. That coincidental accident had provided the missing bullet. It wasn't the second shot, the very first shot which had accidentally killed Matsui had guaranteed that this massacre would happen. In this smoke and corpse-filled room of gold, the two of them wore easygoing smiles hardly any different from those they usually wore. What do we do now? Rudolph picked up Rosa's gun. Then he fired a test shot at the wall and ejected the old shell with a smooth motion like Kyrie's. Kyrie went to the box of bullets on the table, casually picked up a few, loaded them in one after another into her gun. Set the bomb switch to on, then we just need to wait 24 hours. Everyone's gonna run wild when morning comes and they can't find us. Then we just need to make sure they don't. Guess so. What about Battler? He's your son, not mine. Don't say that. Look how attached he is to you. He really respects you. Then think of a clever way to trick him. I'll worry about Anja. You worry about Battler-kun. Fair enough. Sure. I'm kind to my own children, but it's a real pain to be nice to Asumu-san's kid. You'll understand, I hope. Kyrie's voice had grown cold. She had acted warmly towards Battler because that had been the adult thing to do. He was Rudolph's son, so she tried to avoid being hostile, nothing more. But underneath, he was the son of Asumu, a woman Kyrie still hated even though she was dead. Now that she had given birth to Anja and finally built up a new family, was Battler's return really such a happy thing for her? Get yourself ready. Now that we've come this far, we can only go for the billion yen or die trying. If you can't convince Battler-kun, I'm sorry, but I won't be taking any chances. No need to threaten me. I'll take care of it. I'll find a good story to tell him. Make sure you do. I know Anja will be very sad if she's forced to hear about Battler-kun dying in an accident. Sure. How do we start? We have nothing to gain by waiting for morning. Now's the best time. Oh, wonderful. Not even time for a break.